Welcome you guys. It's your boy Caleb. We back at it again. That team from DC. Me and Khadar, we gonna break down the draft picks that just happened recently, and we gonna talk about our favorite one at the end. Stay tuned.
Yo, Caleb is going to get cooked, but in a nice way.
Man, I can't wait to see Caleb get cooked. It's going to be hilarious.
Khadar can hold his own, so it's going to be a challenge. Good luck.
Hey, have you heard of that team featuring Caleb and Khadar? Tap in today. I got Caleb cooking. New podcast alert. Podcast
I'm trying to
alert.
figure out how Caleb like the Mavs but hate the Wizards, man. They both trash, man. Get out of here,
Caleb
man.
and Khadar, a podcast? Man, that's the sports gumbo we never knew we needed.
Hey, yo, Khadar cookie Caleb, yo.
Man, they gotta let Caleb cook, man. It ain't his fault. Luka and Kyrie couldn't make it to the playoffs.
Looking forward to this. This is gonna be a goodie right here. Two of the young bucks at a fan base. You know what I'm saying? Very
Caleb
informed.
or Khadar? Who's going 1-0?
So Caleb and Khadar are having a podcast together? Man, who's gonna
Then he'll
watch
catch
that?
up and do his thing. But man, y'all got to see this, or hear this, or both. It's gonna
Caleb
be
is
crazy.
wild. So with Khadar, it should bring a little balance.
Yeah,
It should be entertaining.
This about to be a goodie. I gotta rock with my boy Khadar. Caleb in the Madden takes his trit of that.
Khadar and Caleb talking ball is like Kendrick and Drake talking music. Man, this is gonna be crazy. Let's go.
Now, how you think Caleb gonna beat up if he get too mad, man? I ain't trying to hear that nightstick come out. It's nightstick time.
How you doing, Khadar? How you doing, bro? You had a. How was the draft for you, man? Was it good? Was it good?
It was good, man. I wish I could have got to sit down and watch, what some of the league did with some of their picks and the analysis. But overall, it was a fun experience. The draft day party was really cool. Great to see you and, Deuce and all the Commander fans. And yeah, man, it was a great time. Happy that everybody that was there could be a part of it.
Yeah, it was nice to see some of the players, man. I saw John Allen, Sam Howell was there, Jahan was there, and we're gonna talk about this soon. So, and Emmanuel Forbes was there too. He was, signing off autographs, meeting the fans, which is something that I really do like what this team is doing. They're getting the players out there to meet the fans, and they're welcoming the fans to, chat it up with the players sometimes, man. So we're gonna get into this, man. We're gonna talk about these draft picks that we got. Emmanuel Forbes. I was surprised that we took him. I thought we was gonna take Gonzalez. But then at the time I'm sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm like, what the hell did they just do? Did they just pass up on Christian Gonzalez? I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm trying to comprehend it. I'm a little upset at the moment. But then a few days later, I go home, I'm breaking his film down, and I'm like, I think they made the right pick. Because, it's all about scheme fit too. Granted, Gonzalez is probably, to a lot of people, the better prospect. When you look at Forbes' tape, he is a zone corner, which is something that we tend to play a lot. Match zone, cover 3, match cover 4. We play a lot of zone, and we allow the front 4 to get there, and we let our DBs read and react to the football. But the guy, you can't just deny his ball production as a player. When you got a guy that's had he set the FBS record in pick sixes and 14 interceptions in 3 years. That's not something that you just brush by. Granted, the weight, it can be a red flag to some people, but to a lot of people, hey, if you can ball, you can ball. It don't matter. Jalen Ramsey said, I like that pick. Like Sauce Gardner said, the size don't matter. He can attack the football. And recently, I don't know if you saw, but the Cowboys were interested in him too. The Cowboys were
and the Ravens.
And the Ravens. So people were grading that pick. Some people said it was a reach. Granted, I would have liked if we traded back, but They say it takes two to tango. So we couldn't trade back. So you just pick the guy that you love. But no, I'm not upset with the pick. Granted, Khadar, if he went to the Cowboys, they're not bashing them at all for making that pick. They don't care about the win at all because it's the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm glad they didn't get him because it's Emmanuel Forbes and Trayvon Diggs. And you got two guys that are ball hawks. That can be an issue. Then you got Micah Parsons coming off the edge too and to provide pressure. So the Forbes pick was a good pick. I sitting back and looking at it, I didn't mind it at all.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised seeing you on Twitter when that pick happened. I know Young Heavy and some of the fans outside.
They added me quick. They added me quick, man.
It was like, how do you feel about this? So you had to really, give your 2 cents. And everything you say on that app can and will be used against you. So with Emmanuel Forbes, I agree with you on the fact that I wish they would have traded back and gotten more draft picks. The New England Patriots traded back from 14 to 17, got a 4th round pick and still was able to get their guy, Christian Gonzalez, at 17. For me, Emmanuel Forbes, the vibe I got when we took Emmanuel Forbes is almost like the same vibe that I had when we took Jahan Dotson last year, where it was like, I feel like we could have, a lot of fans thought that, Jahan might have been there a little later. But, looking back at that, Jahan turned out to be a really good player for us. Despite the fact that, the fans wanted, me included, I'll be honest with you, I wanted Chris Olave in the draft 2 years ago. But we did get Jahan, and, me seeing a lot of Jahan, I was very familiar with his game, and I thought it was a good pick, despite the fact that, I wanted another player. With Emmanuel Forbes, I really did like Emmanuel Forbes, and I watched a lot of SEC football, so I was familiar with Emmanuel Forbes prior to the draft. And he was a player that made a lot of plays. His ball hawking and the ability that he has to create turnovers and the pick sixes. He's got a really strong resume for a defensive back. And the thing that stood out to me was the fact that Ron, in the car ride to the facility in the morning, was talking about, I hope Forbes is there. So for Ron to be able to get his guy at 16, if that's who he truly wanted, not only am I at peace with that, I'm excited for that, because I think no matter who you get in round 1, you want to get somebody that's going to be an impact player. You want somebody that's going to come in, hopefully day one, unless you get a quarterback or, somebody that's a developmental guy that's injured or, is redshirting or anything like that. If you want a guy that's going to come in and make an impact, your draft, the 1st round pick has to be a hitter. And I think we got one with Emmanuel Forbes. And, Scott McLuhan even mentioned, I don't know if you saw this report.
Yeah.
They interviewed Scott McLuhan and they asked him, pick by pick, how do you feel about the Commanders draft? And he said that he had Emmanuel Forbes higher than Christian Gonzalez. And I think, his ability to play zone coverage in our defense and his ability to create turnovers that we really didn't have too many of last year is going to be
bottom five in turnovers.
Yeah, it's going to bode really well for us. The concern I have with Emmanuel Forbes is obvious. The durability, I feel like, just being in the NFL and, playing at that weight, making tackles and, him being one-on-one with guys like A.J. Brown, it's things that he will have to overcome. And I feel like the risk reward, I feel like we got a really good player at pick 16. So I'm really excited about it.
I mean, granted, they said the same thing about Dotson would be drafting him. Oh, yeah, I just drafted a slot guy. And I'm like, pump the brakes. The guy can play on the outside. He proved in the NFL he can play on the outside. And even in college, he was mostly on the outside than he was in the slot. So I don't know why people thought that they thought Jahan was too small to be able to withstand against press coverage, which this year he proved, he can play in this league. So I'm cool with Forbes, man. I don't got any pushback on it. Granted, we got to see him play on the field. which I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine. People talk about the run support stuff. Deion Sanders, and I'm not comparing the two, but Deion Sanders wasn't a great tackler either. But what he did was played the ball at a high rate. He was an elite pass defender in pass coverage.
Yeah, and we were able to double dip, by getting another defensive back. It's something that I thought about. I thought there was a chance that they do something like this. They got Quan Martin out of Illinois, a Big Ten player who is a nickel guy for our defense going forward. I feel like it would have been interesting to see what they would have done if Brian Branch would have lasted 3 more picks.
I would have picked up Brian Branch. I would have picked him up. That the defense would have been elite. It would have been elite if we picked up Brian Branch. I'm telling you right. It would. Oh man.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how their 2 careers will go forward. As compared to each other. But Quan Martin, I like the pick. We got a guy that can come in. Just do everything in the nickel, cover guys. He's going to be on backs. He's going to be on tight ends. He's going to be on receivers, just a jack of all trades, really. And I feel like he's going to be a player that, is a sure tackler. And, he's going to be a really key player for our defense, a player that he actually reminds me of, which is interesting because of the size difference. But he reminds me a little bit of Kaishan Jarrett, who we had back from Virginia Tech in the 6th round a few years ago, who had the nasty injury against the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like with Quan Martin, he's a bigger version of Kaishan Jarrett. And I feel like for him, he's going to be coming in right away and he's going to be contributing to a defense that allows him to play a little more freely. I feel like he's going to benefit a lot from, our front four, getting home potentially and, creating havoc on the quarterbacks. And I think for me, Quan Martin, he's going to have to stick to his coverage a little more than, typical nickels because, no matter who we've had out there, whether it was Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St. Juste, I feel like we haven't really had anybody since Kendall Fuller left for Kansas City and we traded him. A guy that's really come in and just dominated the nickel position. I feel like Quan Martin, they're going to, between him and whoever's struggling on the boundary, they're going to use him to pick on, I feel like, to really see if he's really ready. And, they're going to really test him a lot. So if he can come in early and, take over that spot and, have early success, I feel like he's going to really have a good year going forward. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, when we double down in corner, it's again Khadar. I was a little ticked off because I wanted a guard. One of those Torrance, Cody. I wanted an offensive lineman. We got the corner. Now let's shore up the trenches. They wanted to double dip down and get another corner. He's a DB / safety.
Buffalo nickel, maybe. He's a jack of all trades.
Yeah. So, and I actually looked at his film today, and I like the guy. I like him. He's a guy. I think he was the best safety last year, and he's a 5th-year senior. He was the best at run defense. He is a sure tackler. That guy can tackle in open space. I will say that. He is a type of, when you look at his coverage ability, the tight ends, where he went up against Sam Laporta from Iowa, and he was one of my favorite tight ends out of the draft. Sam Laporta kind of, sunned him a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. However, when you drop him, he played a lot of cover 1 too in Illinois. A lot of cover 1. So you can put him as the free safety, and he's at his best when he reads and reacts instantly. He set that combine record for the 10-yard split. He has a 44-inch vert. This guy's an athlete. He has tremendous recovering ability. When he has to go, if a receiver gets past him, he has some clips where he's gotten back there and he's broke up the pass. Granted, this is the NFL. The players are faster, stronger, bigger. He's going to have to adapt to that. I love the guy. We can do so many rotations with this safety group now. You could put Derek Forrest at free. You could put him on strong safety. You could put Cam
Crow in the slot.
You could put Cam Crow in the box. You could put, Martin at free safety, Cam Crow strong safety. You could put Forrest in the box. They can rotate this safety group around and get really creative. He's also a really good blitzing corner. You can blitz with him too. This is a guy where if you can use him the right way, he will be a problem. Not only for our division opponents, but he will be a problem in the NFL. You're going to have the game plan for him. You just got to look at his tape. To anybody who sees it and doesn't believe me, look at the tape. I've broke down this guy's tape. The guy's a good player. He can get better in coverage. Don't get me wrong. I ain't saying the kid is great or perfect. He can get better in coverage. That's one of his biggest growth areas. He has to be better in coverage. Zone coverage, he's good. Man coverage, he can improve a little bit. But the guy can play. He can hit you too. When you got a guy coming across the middle, or drag on a slant, he ain't afraid to put a shoulder in you. I like that. Especially with guys you got like Forrest and Curl. You got two guys that can hit. He can set the tone for this team. He can be one of those guys.
Way Scott McLuhan describes his draft picks and the guys that he wants to get are football players. And first thing he said was Quan Martin is a football player. So excited about that for sure.
So Ricky Stromberg, man, when I saw us make this pick, I'm like, okay, interesting. Some of the guards, they were gone. Some of the centers, some of my favorite centers that I wanted, like Luke Weipler, of course, John Michael Smits, I think Joe Tippmann, he was gone. So we got Ricky Stromberg. I think he was graded the best of center or interior offensive lineman in the SEC, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But he is a guy, when you look at his tape that I've seen, he is a mauler in the run game. He is highly aggressive when it comes to playing the run. He can get to the second level a little bit for his size. And also, he played against Bama, played against Georgia. He's going up against those Georgia boys that we got to face over in Philly. He's going up against Jordan Davis. He's going up against Jalen Carter. There was a clip that I saw on Twitter where he pulled from the center position and he closed out on Nolan Smith. And the running back, he didn't take the right lane approach. He went on the outside instead of the inside. But he's a mauler in the run game. Pass blocking, probably get a little bit better. But like I said before, Khadar, with this offensive line, if you break down everybody, I do believe the strength of this offensive line is going to be in the run. That's where they are. They're run blocking offensive linemen, in my opinion. There may be a solid pass blocker here and there, but Ricky Stromberg, this is a good pick. I think he's going to start at center for the near future for us. A stout guy in the middle that got a little nasty attitude, which I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I like the fact that he's another SEC guy that we're getting at the center position. I liked where we got him. I think it was fair to get him in round 3, especially off the board. Immediately when we drafted him, I had a feeling that it was signaling the end for Chase Roulier, who got released. And, Chase Roulier has had injury histories, former 6th-round pick. He's been very serviceable, and he's done really well for us for a few years from the time we drafted him, I think out of Wyoming. So with Roulier being gone, I think it opens the door for Stromberg to, earn some playing time and potentially a starting spot. Like you mentioned, he's a mauler. I think he's one of those guys. Sometimes when you draft interior linemen, you don't know where they're going to be put. Some guys might swing out to tackle, others might swing out to center, or centers might swing out to guard. I think he is a center. And I think that his experience in the SEC, I think being a first team SEC player is going to bode really for future with the offensive line. So I like the pick. I like that they addressed it, the offensive line, because it's good to get interior lineouts. We've seen there's been a lot of success getting interior linemen in the middle rounds versus getting tackles. So I think he's got a bright future. So hopefully it works out.
Yeah.
And we double dipped again
Yep.
By getting another offensive lineman. Round 4, one I really like. I like Braden Daniels. And to me, between Stromberg and Braden Daniels, I feel like this draft is really going to depend on these two in the way we look at it as a whole draft. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like we know what we got with Forbes. We're pretty sold on Quan Martin being the nickel guy. With these two guys, Stromberg and Daniels, I feel like if we can get one of these two to be a starter very early and contribute right away for our offensive line and be a building block for our offensive line, then we can really look at this draft as a success from a whole standpoint. Not getting one player, but getting different guys at different rounds to come in and contribute. And with Braden Daniels, I really hope they put him at guard. And he's very undersized. He's more of a zone blocker than he is, a power, being in a power scheme. I think Braden Daniels, if he comes in, I think the spot I would really like him to play would be left guard. He's not a tackle. I feel like in the NFL, he's more of a guard. And, getting a tackle in round 4 is kind of difficult anyway. You got to get somebody like a Jason Peters who went undrafted, who was drafted as a tight end. It's really unlikely to get somebody to be a tackle later in the draft outside rounds 1 and 2. So with Braden Daniels, I feel like his potential is being the most athletic offensive lineman that we got on the field. A guy that can go out and run. He'll be the guy in front of Brian Robinson, in the second level, making, blocks and finishing people, in the screen game, making blocks and, finishing people. I think if Braden Daniels comes in and earns a starting job, he will be the most athletic offensive lineman that we have on the field.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I don't. It'll probably be him and Cosme. That'll be the most athletic guys on the offensive line. I don't mind the Brandon Daniels pick. They said he's a tackle, swing tackle. He's a guard. He's a little under. I want him to gain a little bit more weight. I think he's 294 or 297. Yeah. Granted, if he doesn't want to gain weight, I guess he can. If he can get a little bit more stronger, he's going to have to go up against the big boys in the trenches. But I don't disagree with you. Him pulling could be very, very nice to see. I'm actually curious. I looked at his tape. The guy, he can move. That guy can move. So having him at the guard position, when you want AG to run one of those zone runs to the left or to the right, you want him to pull directly to the outside. He's perfect for that.
Yeah, he adds a lot of speed to our team from the offensive line position. So,
which is something that we need. I've said that we need to get younger at the O-line position. We need to get younger. We need to get more athletic. We need to get faster. We need to get stronger. Because this past year, the offensive line, they couldn't move. They weren't athletic. They had no speed to them at all. And it was very troubling to see. Very troubling to see. But yeah, I think he can really contribute to this roster. Because when you put him beside Charles Leno, who knows? Maybe he can make Charles Leno look better than what he is when you have a good guard next to him. We saw that with Eric Flowers. We saw when you have at least a decent guard next to Leno. Leno actually was 2021, he was top 10 as a pass blocker.
Yeah.
And I don't know where he was as a run blocker. I'm not sure. But he was decent. And here's a word from the Hog Farmers.
This is Hog Farmer Jeff of the Hog Farmers. And before you listen to that team from DC with Caleb and Khadar, presented by the Red Zone in the Lab, please check out our website at hogfarmerscharity.org. We are starting a Gaming Go-Karts for Children's Hospital campaign with a goal of $7,000 because kids deserve a chance to be kids. The Hog Farmers would like to purchase 2 gaming carts for 2 children's hospitals. Being in the hospital can be scary and isolating. Video games bring joy and are a source of relief. Please help restore a sense of normalcy for children during their hospital stays. We're helping kids by improving the patient's experience. It's a great way to socialize. 65% of gamers play with friends. It provides a sense of adventure, and sometimes healthcare staff even use it to assist with treatments. The cart is made up of hospital-grade construction and materials, 24-inch monitor with speakers, and secured storage bin and components. And please show some love by subscribing to the podcast on YouTube and visit www.redzoneinthelab.com. And as always, hail to the Commanders.
We back. The next guy we got is KJ Henry from Clemson. So, not gonna lie to you, Khadar, I don't know how you feel about this guy. I've heard some reports that the guy can play. It's a good depth piece behind Montez Sweat and Chase Young, saying that you don't have.
I dig it, man.
Seeing you don't have any you don't have them on contract for next year. I haven't looked up any that much tape on a guy. I heard he's really good at just having a high motor. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one so you can convince me.
I really like the pick. I think I was next to Deuce when the pick happened or right after, and I was telling him I feel like this is the Shaka Tony replacement. He's giving me the thumbs down, shaking his head. But on a serious note, KJ Henry adds depth to a position that we've addressed and built, in free agency, in the draft, getting guys that are going to come in and contribute. Like we've done a really good job getting guys at the defensive line position. I feel like KJ Henry is a player that's getting better. If he does anything, if there's one thing that he does that you can count on, is he's going to set the edge. And he's not going to lose contain. There's not going to be guys that are going to go out, outside of him, and he's going to be really good in run support. I feel like bare minimum, that's something that's really good for a rotational defensive lineman, because that's what I think he'll be. I don't think he's going to be anybody that comes in and starts day one or, in the future. I think he's going to be a rotational guy. The thing that I like about him is he's getting better. I think his sacks were increasing, from each year. He hasn't had more than, I think, 3 or 4 sacks in a single season, but he got more and more increased playing time in his time at Clemson. And I feel like, playing with Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, those are guys that he had Brian Brissett, but he hasn't had guys like Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. And, on the outside, with Sweat or Chase Young or whoever's outside of him, on the opposite side, I feel like he's going to play with a load of talent at the defensive line position, which will give him one-on-one opportunities. He was a 5-star in high school. He was somebody that, was getting a lot of looks. They were game planning for him, despite the fact that he wasn't somebody that was really producing from the sack level, on the stat sheet. But, for me, I think with him, he might be a late bloomer and he might surprise us. And what we've seen with Mayhew and Ron Rivera in their time drafting players, we've had success finding guys in rounds 5 through 7. Starting quarterback next year, 5th round pick. Player I love and you love, Cam Curl, 7th round pick. Derek Forrest, Cincinnati safety, 5th round pick. We've found guys in the late rounds, and I'm just saying, why not KJ Henry? So we'll see about that.
Yeah. Hey, man, look, all I need for him is to perform. But now Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, man.
What you think?
In round 6, we got Chris Rodriguez, and I felt way better taking a running back in round 6 than that guy from Texas that everybody wanted in round 1. So, Chris Rodriguez, for me, the only knock I have on Chris Rodriguez, and it's not necessarily a knock on him as a player, it's more so us as a running back room, I feel like could benefit from having a little more speed. Having a guy that can come in and bring out to wide, have a little, be able to mix and match, formations and things like that. With Chris Rodriguez, for me, I feel like he is the insurance for Brian Robinson. And Chris Rodriguez he's a player that reminds me of Brian Robinson, honestly, being an SEC player, first team SEC. He's a downhill runner who hits the hole. He doesn't dance around. He's north and south, and he's looking for contact. And he's making sure that he's felt, and he gets better with more and more carries. And in a division, in a conference where it's run first, you got to have running backs. And AG obviously is in a contract year. He might be somebody that Eric Bieniemy looks to move around between running back and wide receiver. Chris Rodriguez, when he's in the game, we know exactly what we're going to get from him. He's going to be somebody that is going to run the football. He didn't have a lot of receptions in college as a receiver from the running back position. So that was one knock on him. But I was actually surprised that he got to round 6. I think he's a really good football player. And to be honest with you, it's a steal here for me.
Yeah, when I looked at Rodriguez, granted, I wanted speed too. However, the undrafted rookie that we got from UCLA, that guy can move. He's a punt returner.
Cass Allen.
Yes, and you can use him like the Chiefs use Pacheco. You can use him in that way. He can, do kind of like that Chris Thompson role. I think we can use him like that. But with Rodriguez, man, that's a nice little 1-2 punch. With B-Rob and him. We got to run on the team. We got 2 bruising backs that we can use and say, look, we gonna run this clock out, and you ain't gonna stop us because we got Rodriguez and we got B-Rob. And then you can use them still in read option looks with Sam Howell. Sam Howell is also a powerful runner. You don't want to use him like a running back, but you get what I mean. But yeah, with Rodriguez, man, you got a guy that can run between the tackles. I don't think he's fumbled. So that's something that we can look forward to seeing and keep on looking forward to seeing. But yeah, man, it's a nice little 1-2 punch. Then we got Andre Jones. See, I think they listed him as a linebacker. Is he a 3-4 edge rusher to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think with 3-4 guys on the edge, they're guys that can also, if they add a little weight, be somebody that puts their hand in the dirt and rushes from the edge. But to me, I feel like he's going to play linebacker.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like he's going to be somebody that they have, maybe not playing weak side, but like in the Sam role. I feel like, he's going to be somebody that doesn't really see the field a lot if he does play. But for me, I feel like this is a pick that they made purely for special teams and somebody that can just come in and
agree
in their spot. So
I agree. He's not taking Khalid Hudson's spot at that linebacker role. We also forgot about him. I'm glad we got him back. Yeah, so that's a guy. He's not taking his spot. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. He will be a special teams guy. Stay over there.
Yeah, I don't see him. I don't see him being. I mean, with the guys that we got on the defensive line, I just don't see him really competing with them. And at linebacker, I feel like, despite him being an edge guy in college, like I feel like if he's gonna make the team, it has to be at linebacker for me.
Yeah, or if you're gonna make the team, you gotta be good at special teams.
I think he's got to be good at special teams regardless. He's got to be somebody that's helping our coverage unit and is a surefire guy and is consistent. So
I agree. So we gotta talk about the favorite picks that we've had, Khadar, and I'm gonna let you go first.
Favorite pick for me, I usually, like, for instance, last year my favorite pick was Brian Robinson. And when I tell y'all we had B-Rob at home, when people were talking about the other B-Rob that was in the Big 12, I wasn't kidding. Like, I was real happy with the B-Rob we got. When I make a favorite pick, I'm not trying to make it an easy, selection. Like, I want it to be somebody that, really surprises you and somebody that isn't the, fan favorite, but for me, it has to be Emmanuel Forbes, and I'm going against everything I just said, but in all honesty though, he's the one guy I feel like day one has the chance to be a difference maker. And his skills really match what we don't have. Like, somebody that's able to create turnovers. I know Derek Forrest had 4 interceptions last year at the safety position, but having a guy that is very flexible, like, I feel like he's got a lot of positional flexibility. Like, he's somebody that can play either corner spot. I feel like he's somebody that can play in the slot, maybe even down the road later in his career, he could play safety. He's got the ball skills to be able to do it all. And I feel like he's somebody that could be, in contention for Defensive Rookie of the Year, depending on how he plays. I feel like he's somebody that could be, in the league leaders in interceptions if he really balls out and plays and he's getting opportunities and the ball thrown his way. I mean, think about this. Trayvon Diggs had 11 interceptions, and he also gave up 1,100 yards that same season. What if we get the same production from the turnover standpoint and we get a guy that's locking down whoever he's guarding? I'm just saying that'd be something that we don't have. So I feel like Emmanuel Forbes for me is somebody that I'm really excited to see play next year.
And to piggyback off what you said, I didn't say this earlier, but one thing that really sticks out to me about Forbes, he don't talk too much trash. He keep it on the field. That interview that he had, he said, I play from the neck up. He plays smart. He studies film, something that he also said. He sits down and he looks at the receiver he's playing against. Despite his size and despite his weight, he's a competitor. The guy will compete. You give us that type of, if he can bring that swag over here, players will feed off of that tremendously. But for me, man, Martavious Martin, my favorite pick, dog. When I looked at that film, I said, hold up, this guy gonna be nice. If we can use him in the correct way, we can do a lot of damage with that kid. Like I said, man, you can blitz this guy on the outside. You can have him play the flats. You can have him play, the seams, like when he has to guard a corner route, or if he has to guard a fade from the slant receiver position. This I'm telling you, bro, I'm high on this guy. This guy can move. Same way I'm high on Cam Curl. I'm about to be high on this guy. I am. This guy, he had 10 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, I believe, this year. I believe this year. Um, I think we got the better safety in that Illinois defense, and that Illinois defense was the best in scoring defense. That's the one thing I care about. I don't care about yards. I don't care about all that. I care about scoring. How much is the defense giving up a game, and how much the defense is giving up per play? Because there's an actual stat about points per play that a team gives up, and you may want to take this aside, Khadar. You may want to take a look at that. We're top 10 in that this past year. So when you add a guy like that, who's also very physical in the box, he's a little bit too physical in coverage. Sometimes he gets too handsy a little bit, and he gets beat off that. Like I said, the tight end thing, he's going to struggle a little bit. Sam Laporta kind of stiff-armed him a little bit when he got the ball. It's something he got to work on. You know, you got to go up against Darren Wilder. You got to go up against Dallas Goedert. Now you got to go up against the Cowboys tight ends. Then they got Luke Schoonmaker, who's a big guy too. But, however, receiver going across the middle, somebody's going to get hit. He's going to hit somebody. I will tell you that right now. He either cut block them, or he's going to put his shoulder in you and look at you and be like, yeah, come across the middle again. That's something that I'm telling you. Forrest is going to feed off that. Jamin Davis is going to feed off that. Cam Curl is going to feed off that. The players, the sidelines is going to feed off that guy. I'm telling you. But my overall draft for this grade, I'm gonna give it a B-. It was a solid draft. It was a draft that we addressed certain needs. Granted, I wanted a left tackle of the future. We got to wait till next draft to get that, I believe. But these players, they're not bad prospects. Should we have taken them where they were? That's the question that a lot of people have. A lot of people don't hate the draft that we had. It's just where we picked them. Some people had Forbes as a late first. Some people had him as an early second. We picked him at 16. Some people had Martin as a third round pick. We picked him in the second. Ricky Stromberg was projected in the third or the fourth. And the rest is whatever. But I don't got a problem with the picks. It's just, like I said before, should we have picked them there? Could we have finessed it a little bit? Ron probably was thinking, look, I don't give a damn. I'm going to get my guy. What fits us. I don't care about where he's projected. He's going to fit in what and how we're going to do things over here in DC.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little lower than you. I'm gonna give it a C+, but for the same reason you kind of alluded to. So for me, I'm a big value guy. Like, we had Jonathan Allen, who was projected to be a top 5 pick, fall into our lap at pick 17. As recently as last year, we had the 11th pick where I wanted us to consider taking Chris Olave, and we traded back and we got pick 16, got a 3rd round pick where we got Brian Robinson, and we got a 5th round pick where we drafted our QB1 for next year. So, for me, like you mentioned, I don't have a problem with the players that we got. It's more so the value of what we're getting. And, I didn't feel like we reached, but I don't feel like it was a steal either for any of these players outside of Chris Rodriguez, who I felt like should have been drafted earlier. I felt like every guy that we got drafted right around where you'd expect him to get picked. If anything, some people feel like some of the guys that we picked got drafted earlier than when they might have been picked. So,
yeah, I agree. And what you said about the value, you're spot on with that. We will only see the true value of this draft by the way these players play. If Forbes is playing at the level he's supposed to play, boom, great value. If Martin, my guy, if he's playing like the way he's supposed to play, boom, that was a good pick.
Yeah, and a couple of things to look out for. First, with the guys that we picked, I think for me, for this C+ grade that I'm giving it, it's something that could improve, down the road. But I think the key for me is going to be those 2 offensive linemen. I feel like with Ricky Stromberg and Braden Daniels, I think one at the minimum, if not two, are going to have to come in at some point in the next season and be starters. I feel like you drafted these guys to bolster and add depth to your position group. I don't want them to be backups. And the reality is one of them might be a backup, and that's okay. But for me, I feel like for this draft to be a solid draft to a great draft, we got to get a starter from that offensive line. And, with the value thing, time will tell with how that goes. I think Jahan Dotson had a really good year as it relates to some of the other receivers that were drafted in that same draft. He had 7 touchdowns, which I think led all rookie receivers last year. And he could have been, somebody that had, more stats if he stayed healthy and played more games.
Oh, no, he would have had more. He would have had more. He would have had more numbers. There's no question.
Yeah. And, I think we're going to look back at this and we're going to see how Emmanuel Forbes compares to Christian Gonzalez, who a lot of people wanted, Deonte Banks, who some people wanted, Joey Porter Jr., who some people wanted. And we're going to look back to see how Quan Martin compares to Brian Branch, who could have been, somebody that could have fell into our lap. So,
well, Brian Branch got picked 3. He got picked 3 spots ahead of us.
Yeah. But still, I feel like it was one player that,
I get you.
We could have gotten, and we didn't. So, we'll see. If Brian Branch was there at pick 47, would he be?
Oh my goodness.
Would he be a commander? We don't know. But I'm happy with Quan Martin. And, I think for us, we got our guys. We know what to kind of expect next year as far as who's going to be on the team. I'm looking for guys to come in and just compete, with Eric Bieniemy at the helm on offense. I'm looking for the offense to find its identity and to, just do what it can to help Sam be a pro and really go out there and produce and do his job. And for me, that's also tied into the defense and special teams though they're established. They got to come in and dominate. Our defensive unit has got to come in and build off of last year and what it's done in the past with Jack Del Rio. I'm looking for Chase Young to have a bounce back year. I'm looking for the front 4 to get home, maybe even sprinkle in some more blitzes and change, what they do coaching just a little bit. Maybe, I don't know if they'll do that, but I'm looking for the defensive backs to hopefully create turnovers. What will Derek Forrest do this year after having a big year last year? Having Cam Curl out there, one of the most, some people might consider the most important player on our defense. What's he going to look like out there being healthy full time? And, Emmanuel Forbes, obviously being somebody that we drafted in the first round. I just want to see guys compete and just, play hard and really build off of what we did last year. I want to take steps forward, not steps backwards.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. To close it up, I'll just say this. Look, man, tell you one thing, Khadar, they better not start off slow. You better know who you're going to start and how you're going to use these players. Week 1, that's what I expect to see. If they start off slow, Khadar, I promise you, there's going to be a problem. And I'm so serious about that. You have to start off fast. With Ron Rivera and how his job is going, he's on the hot seat, of course. He has to start off fast. I tell you one thing, though, this defense will be top 10 again. They're going, I believe, they're the best case scenario, create turnovers, create short fields for the offense, so the offense can put up points. Now you can be creative and exotic defensively. Jack Del Rio, maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll see some more zone blitzes, double A gap, you fake the blitz, you back out. You start blitzing your corners a little bit. We're going to see. So I think that this team can trend upwards, Khadar. It's all about getting those dubs. That's what it's about. But yeah, man.
Sure. Another episode, man.
Yes,
Good to
sir.
see you, man. It was great to see you at the draft day party. You know, it was first time meeting you in person. So excited to see you when we chop it up again, man. Peace
Yeah,
and
of
love,
course.
that team from DC.
Peace and love, man. Peace and love.
Now keep it 100. That wasn't so bad now, was it? Spread the word. Because like Dion say, we coming. Thanks for listening to the Team from DC podcast. We truly appreciate your time. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at RedZoneInTheLab.com and also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can download our podcast at your usual podcast platforms. Also visit RedZoneInTheLab.com. See you next time. Gang, gang. Holla at your boy.